Hello friends, welcome to CSS video tutorial series. From the past few video tutorials, we are trying to understand pseudo class selectors with respect to UI, that is pseudo class selectors with respect to form controls and how we can use them in our HTML pages. We discussed :enabled, :disabled and :checked pseudo class selector. Also we discussed :focus, :optional and :required pseudo class selectors with respect to UI. In this video tutorial, I would like to discuss some more pseudo class selectors, which are :invalid and :valid pseudo class selectors with respect to UI and how we can use them in our HTML pages. In the previous video tutorial, we have written this code. In the body section, we created a form and the form has one email field, one password field, two radio buttons to accept the gender and one submit and one reset button. Also, we have applied a little bit styling to the form. We have applied a background color light gray, width 150 pixel, padding 10 pixel, border radius 10 pixel. And this is the output for that code. Here we have an email field. You can see that. The email field accepts a valid email. If you do not give a valid email ID, then automatically browser says you that this is not having a valid information. Let's see that. If I say here RA and move to the next field, if I go to the password field, you can see browser highlighted that field by a pink border saying that this is not a valid email ID. That means the current status of the email field is invalid status. If I try to submit, it says please enter an email address. RA is not a valid email address. If you give ra@gmail.com and if you go to the next field, you can see that now we don't have that pink highlighted border around the email field. That indicates that the email field having a status of valid. So it is in a valid state. If you give a valid email ID, the state of the email field is valid. Like that, we have various fields like URL. They accept a valid URL. We have seen those things while learning HTML, right? In the HTML video tutorial series, we discussed about valid and invalid information. Now, based on the valid and invalid state, we can give much more intuitive meaning to the users so that they can understand what they have to do. So here, what I do is, if we give an invalid information, I want to give much more information. I want to set the background color red, foreground color white to indicate that the field has the invalid information or invalid email ID. Here comes the use of invalid selector. So this is the syntax: selector :invalid, in flower brackets we have declaration list. It selects any HTML element targeted by the selector if its status is invalid. In our case here, this email field has invalid content, hence its status is invalid, right? The code I have written here, you can see input :invalid, in flower bracket we have color white, background color red. What this code does, it selects any input element if its status is invalid. Let's write the code and see the demonstration. Input, I say type equal to email close :invalid. In flower bracket I write background dash color of red, foreground color of white, semicolon. File save. I told to the browser, check if an input element having a type email and if its status is invalid, apply the background color red, foreground color white. File save. If I go to the browser and say refresh, you can see that the email field has the background color red, foreground color white, indicating that it is in an invalid state. Of course, it has invalid email ID. If I give a proper mail ID, if I say here massmas45688@gmail.com, you can see that that red background is removed, foreground color is not white. Also, that pink border is removed, indicating that email field is now not in an invalid state. It is in a valid state. That means it has the valid content. Even we can give much more meaning. We can say if the email field is in a valid state, let me apply a background color green, foreground color white, right? How do we do that? Here we have the next selector, that is valid pseudo class selector with respect to UI. this is the syntax, selector colon valid flower bracket declaration list. It selects any HTML element targeted by the selector if its status is valid. For example, input colon valid, in flower bracket we have color white, background color, let me say here green. What this code does, it selects any input element if its status is valid. Now here we have the valid content, so it should have the green background color and the foreground should be white. How do we do that? We write a code here. I say input type equal to email colon valid, in flower bracket I say I copy this code and paste it here. Background color should be green and the foreground color should be white. File, save, go to browser and refresh. You can see now the background color is green, foreground color is white. If I give a invalid information, automatically the background color is set to red, foreground color is white. If we have given a valid information, then the background color will be set to green, foreground color will be set to white. So that is the valid and invalid status of the controls or form controls. Similarly, we have various controls like URL. It accepts a valid URL. If it is an invalid URL, it won't accept that. So that you need to understand clearly. Okay, so for this tutorial, this much is enough, friends. I hope you guys have understood how do we use valid and invalid pseudo class selectors in our HTML pages. I suggest you people to watch this video, understand once again. Try using all the pseudo class selectors in your HTML forms. So for this tutorial, this much is enough, friends. For more benefits and be up to date, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And don't forget to like, comment and share these videos with others so that everyone will get benefited. Keep learning, keep coding, keep sharing. Thank you guys. Thank you very much. See you in the next tutorial.